Hello and welcome back. This is going to be a quick series of videos on classical music and classical composer albums that I have, because I'm not that well versed in classical music. I'm sort of figuring it out as I go. Obviously it's, the difference between symphonies, concertos, you've got full orchestras versus trios and quartets and quintets. And also what you're into, so sonatas or nocturnes. Really it's a bit of a minefield to try and figure out what kind of classical music to get into. But anyway, I'll just jump in. First one I want to point out is Arvo Pärt. Pärt, there's a way of pronouncing it that is kind of difficult. Estonian composer. He is still around, he's in his 80s now, so this is kind of contemporary classical music. Deum is this one, and it does have a choir in it, a chamber choir, so his music can be quite churchy. It's sort of in the Gregorian chant tradition, some of it, and that one certainly, as well as this one, Litany. So Arvo Pärt, again, is it's got the Hilliard ensemble here, and I really like his work. So I've got 3 albums, and therefore I'm recommending checking out Arvo Pärt. I'll just say that. This one is just instrumental, but quite a few different kinds of instruments. At one point there's 12 cellos. But yeah, very much like in the classical tradition, but it is sort of more recent times, 80s and 90s. Moving right along, Bach needs no introduction. And these are the Goldberg variations by Gould. So quite a famous recording, and it's just piano, so it's quite simple, beautiful music. And I've kind of done this differently to how I usually do, because I'm going by last name. So Bach, another Bach album. This time, let me get my finger out of the way. The Keller Quartet. This is on ECM. The Arvo Pärt is on ECM as well, which is a good label to investigate. It can be quite expensive. So yeah, Quartet, this is quite beautiful music. I just picked this up on a whim, really, because it was at a good price. That's Die Kunst der Fuge. Don't ask me what that means. Maybe I'll throw that up on screen. Moving quickly along, another Bach album, but this one is called Inspired by Bach, but it's all about Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist. So solo cello, and this is another really good album. So I highly recommend this. So consider something from Arvo Pärt, and also have a look at Yo-Yo Ma. This is a double album. I think it was attached to a 6-part film. And yeah, I'll put everything in description, but Yo-Yo Ma is an amazing cellist. That is one of my favorite albums. There is some recognizable passages in that piece of music, so you'd recognize some of the famous Bach cello music. I guess it depends on who's doing it, who's performing, and what instruments they're performing with. So obviously, cello, piano, violin, it varies. Then there's Beethoven, of course, and the Ninth Symphony. Everybody knows the Ninth Symphony. It's pretty commonly used in a lot of things. I'm just trying to get reflection off that. And there's lots of different versions. I happen to pick up this one, which is the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Sir George Solti is the conductor. What am I saying? Composer. Composer is Beethoven. It is worth checking out more than just what you know, like Ode to Joy. Everybody knows particular sort of movements of the Ninth Symphony, but if you investigate it, there's other passages which aren't so familiar, and they sound amazing. Brahms. So this one I picked up because it was recommended. It's on the Helios label, which is under Hyperion. This is made in France. Took a while to get to me. I won't try and pronounce the first person. Now I just want to check. It's piano and violin. So the first name is the violin player, and then the piano is Susan Tomes. It's incredible. Nice and simple. That's what I kind of finding that I like, is classical music where it's maybe just fairly pared back. Now I was waiting for that to arrive, and then I saw this. Same Brahms, 3 violin sonatas. So the same music, but this one's actually a bit quicker, so the total time is quicker, the other one's slower, and obviously two different performers here. And so that's Itzhak Perlman on violin and Daniel Barenboim on piano. So it's the same music, but a different approach, different energy. And I just happened to pick this up because it was very cheap. So I think I prefer the other one. And so that's my, what is that? That's A's to essentially B's in classical music. It was a quick run through because there's really not much I can say about my classical music collection. They're all good albums in my opinion, but I'm not really sort of consciously looking at a particular composer. I'm not a classical music aficionado. All I can say is that with classical music, what I've come to understand is having a pretty good system to play it, especially if it's a big symphony or a large choir. You do need some pretty good sort of speakers to handle that. I've played classical music on older systems years ago, those sort of like, I don't know, consumer level all-in-one systems. And certain symphonies, when there's sort of a full sort of percussion and a lot of violins, a lot of strings, the speakers, and I guess maybe it's something to do also with the componentry, finds it quite hard to separate the sounds and create the experience that you might want to have with classical music. And I think that's why a lot of audiophiles are into classical music, and the other way around, a lot of people into classical music get audiophile equipment to really get the best out of it. So that's one thing I've come to experience. But yeah, that's part of my collection, and I'll move on quickly in another video, part 2, to continue with my sort of classical composer. There's a few more composers coming up in the next batch, which is more contemporary, sort of in a classical way, but more contemporary music. So see you soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm looking forward to getting to the electronica section in my music collection. So that's coming up next. All right, thanks, and see you soon.